3, 4, 5, we can begin. Brian, do I need to wait for Libby?
I don't know. Probably not. We can probably go. I don't think we'll be that.
All right.
By the time when she gets here, if there's a question, we can get to it. But I think
Okay.
hopefully handle it, I suppose.
All right. It's 4 o'clock, Monday, the 19th of June. Call our meeting to order. We have a quorum, and I know people are coming in. So, first order, any public comment, items that are not otherwise on the agenda? You're the only public person I don't recognize.
My name is Howard Dickler, and I moved here 2 years ago.
Okay. Well, welcome. Stephen, good afternoon. We have minutes that were sent to us for approval. Do I have a motion to approve the minutes?
So moved.
All of them at once? So moved. Second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Thank you. Reserve fund transfers.
Do we want to start with the year-end budget, 33Bs, and that way I think the town manager wanted to be here for the reserve fund transfer.
Okay.
I think, so the first part of your packet is the typical 33B transfers that we're allowed to do under the statute. Previously, the Municipal Modernization Act, before the Municipal Modernization Act, we could only transfer 3% of the budget. Is remove that cap and open it up to some other budgetary line items that were excluded. That's why at the top of now it just says, if approved by the Board of Selectmen. FinCom prior ones have 3% calculations because we were required to do that. We're proposing to move $86,000 from general insurance to human resources, their general expenses, an increase of $20,000, which is primarily related to our contract with the firm that's helping us with the extreme amount of paperwork to file for the Affordable Care Act. It takes an awful lot of work to compile the forms and the data and everything, and most communities are outsourcing that. We did outsource it to make sure that we met the reporting deadlines, so that's where that's coming from, as well as a little bit of an increase in the amount of drug testing that we're doing, the drug test on the employees, and there's an awful lot of seasonal, there's an increase in uptick in seasonal hiring that has warranted a little bit more money in that line item too, with respect to that contract.
Would that not have normally been budgeted?
They were able to do a lot of the ACA work last year. We were able to do quite a bit of it, but the second year was a lot more paperwork and stuff, so we did contract out with it to do it this year. And we will be doing that moving forward, and it is planned, and it was in the budget moving forward. Mosquito control expenses, if you all will remember, there is an individual line item voted at the budget. In the budget, it increases annually by 2.5%. However, the prior, due to some additional effort in July, August, and September of last year, we've exceeded that, and in order to be able to continue to spend under the contract to hopefully prevent a mass outbreak of mosquitoes, we need an additional $35,000 to cover the work through June 30th. And that has gone back out to bid, and we will have a new contract in place for July 1st with the new annual appropriation.
And could you refresh the committee as to what the annual appropriation is from the...
$105,000 in last year, and an increase by 2.5% in fiscal 18.
But with this, we'll actually have spent
It goes to
140.
140,000, yes.
And do you anticipate that it's going to be 140,000 next year?
I don't anticipate that. I think that there was some additional work that the prior administration had done. They did additional work. I don't believe that we'll need it, but that will be up to the new DPW director. As we move through the budget process, if we need to, we'll obviously come back and talk to you about that. DPW expenses, we've asked for an additional $25,000. With the change in administration and the new DPW director, there's an awful lot of encumbered purchase orders that we're trying to wade through with them. Right now, with all the encumbrances, they have about $1,800 left for the last couple of weeks, and we know that there's some additional invoices that are outstanding, so we're asking to transfer $25,000, but I will tell you that the new DPW director and assistant DPW director are scouring every encumbrance to make sure. So this is really to give them a little bit of a leeway. If it's not spent, it just goes back to free cash. Okay. And then town clerk salaries is $6,000, which is specifically related to the overtime, which is specifically tied to the number of elections that we had, as well as the early voting that was implemented. insurance, we did save about 25% on what we had budgeted last year by putting it out to bid. We saw a significant reduction, so this 86,000 is essentially from that savings.
Great. Questions, comments, thoughts?
When it comes to the Affordable Care Act, I know there was a line item for, I don't know if it was next year, for $800,000 or $900,000 in anticipation of, so,
It's been in all the forecasts. It actually wouldn't hit till the second half of 2020, or 2020 is when it would actually be. Any forecasts that we've shown have shown it in the future years, but we haven't budgeted anything in the health insurance line or any other where, other than the HR budget for the reporting and the consulting to get the reports done timely and correctly.
yeah. So I'm just getting confused with all that. I mean, I guess we're anticipating it, but considering the mumbo jumbo of things coming and going and.
Well, I can tell you that in all current new, whatever we want to call the new itineration of the Healthcare Act, none of the new itinerations remove the Cadillac tax. They all leave it in, and the reporting requirements associated with those things. They don't take it out. So.
Yeah, the mosquito budget, the $100,000, so we don't do any of that work ourselves at
No, we
DPW?
contracted out.
All of it?
Yes.
Okay.
It was previously through June 30th with a company called Vector Disease Control. We have put it out to bid, so we expect that they probably will be one of the respondents.
Would it be more expensive because it's been so wet?
Potentially, yes. We're trying to finish up all the work that we had anticipated starting and get the contract for July 1st. So there is the possibility that we could experience that, which would, as I said, we'd come before you to make that request during the next fiscal year if necessary.
Gene? Any? Stephen? Chris?
All set?
Okay. Entertain a motion to approve the transfers.
So moved.
Second?
Further discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Reserve fund transfer?
Go for it.
Okay, so during the year, the town had to, on an emergency basis, coordinate the demolition of 5 Sheep Pond Road and the subsequent removal of the septic and the well. We took that money out of public buildings maintenance at the time so that we could effectuate that removal. And we're asking for a reserve fund transfer to put the money back into the public building maintenance fund to cover that cost, because it was unforeseen and it was an emergency, and we needed to do this to ensure the safety of the public and the health of the public and the house not falling into the ocean.
And I will say that either Libby, Brian, or both of you contacted me about this before when did you actually do the work?
It was done
In May.
in May 18th or May 11th.
They contacted me to say that they were going to go forward and that this was going to be on our agenda, which seemed like a reasonable and appropriate expenditure.
It's a private,
I think you scoured the records or you've tried to get a recovery, and I'm not sure that you've finished trying to get a recovery, but it had to be. I mean, we just had to do it. So. I guess the question is, since you've got about a $9,000 deficit, do we have to put all $35,000 back? What are you going to do with the balance of
Well,
money?
that balance is actually there to maintain the actual public building, all the infrastructure that the town owns, being 16 Broad Street is used for various work or repairs on those buildings, so that's why we're.
Right, but are you going to do it between the 20th of June and the
No,
1st of July?
If the committee wanted to, well, since it's an article, actually, we would need to put it all back at this point if we wanted to spend out of it, unless we were going to go back to the deficit and ask for the same indulgence next year. So I think that'd be more appropriate. At least I would ask that you consider putting it all back, because otherwise, we're going to have to transfer funds next year to do it versus using a reserve fund transfer. Since the full $35,000 is related to the cost of demolition property.
Okay.
Let me, so the $35,000 is the cost of demolishing the property. That brings the balance of the account to whatever the rate is, $27,000, and that's sort of what you expect you need to finish the year.
Well, that fund, that is an article, so it stays open and it funds any repairs or maintenance that we need to any of the public infrastructure, public buildings that the town owns. We use that as a source to take care of the emergency immediately, and then we are asking to replenish it so it goes back to the level that we had
And there is, I guess what I'm confused on is there isn't an appropriation that starts on July 1st
No.
of another number. So
No, because that was a prior article, and we haven't done an article like that for a couple, since I've been here, so.
Okay, so there is no, I mean,
There's a couple of those outstanding articles that we draw from.
Okay.
So that's why I'm recommending to put the full amount back.
everybody follow what they're doing? I didn't initially. Thank you Joe, for getting a clarification. So, any comments beyond? Entertain a motion?
Sounds like that's what it's there for to me. So.
Yep.
Yeah, motion to approve.
Second.
No, all in favor?
Aye.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
I'll sign it and
Yeah.
hand it over to you. Is there any, so we've taken care of items 4 and 5. Is there anything, Libby, you weren't here for our public comment. Do you have anything that you want to let us know about, tell us about, be prepared about?
You probably have seen the selectmen's agenda, or maybe not, for this Wednesday. There is going to be some discussion about the possibility of a special town meeting in the fall directly related to the retail marijuana.
Okay. Is there any, I know there was a discussion about putting the fire department on that. Has there been discussion about delaying that to the spring as was originally anticipated?
Yeah, we've had a bit of discussion about it. If we are going to have a special town meeting this fall, it is likely that the board will consider putting the fire station on the fall warrant. But since we weren't going to have a special town meeting, anyway, I'm not sure, but I think I'll discuss it.
Any comment about that? Harking back to a conversation we had with the chief, as I recall the conversation, and committee, please correct me if I'm wrong, there was a discussion that once a new fire station was built, that we would then go into determining whether we were going to need auxiliary, outlying, ancillary substations. Does anybody recall that conversation, that we would begin to have that discussion?
I think that's always been a part of the whole building process. It was one of the parts of, when we built the fire station, do we need, I guess it was just a topic.
Yeah.
It's always been on there.
I seem to remember from the fire station work group, which may be back 2 years, that the sense was building this facility gives them, I don't know, a certain number of years runway before they needed to deal with a satellite either on the Nantucket end or the Sconset end of the spectrum. But I don't remember anything recent from Paul
I believe
Roos.
it was a recommendation of the report from what you're talking about. And so we'll,
I guess my question is, are we, not to continue to kick the fire station can down the road, but has there been any real definitive discussion and answers about, satellite operations such that, that's a question to be answered before we make go forward and build a big facility?
For the short period of time I've been on those different boards, is that regardless of what we do, they needed a building that would facilitate everything a fire station needs to produce for us. So that was the basis to start here, and then, like you said, down the road.
Yeah, that's sort of my recollection.
Okay.
But if the size of the building is driven by the number or size or amount of apparatus that you need to service the town, and we might consider at some point in the future a second station, this building wouldn't need to be able to house all of the apparatus, because it would also be
I don't know if it was fire response as much as it was ambulance response.
Yeah,
It's an ambulance question, really.
yeah.
Then.
I mean, it's EMT, and I think the question was whether during the summer season you needed to position an ambulance sort of around town because of the difficulty getting in and out of town on emergency calls.
All right. Thank you. November? All right. Any committee reports that anybody wants to report on? What, your committee's over with, is there anybody else on committees that we've got? Just anything? Okay. Any other questions for Brian or Libby?
Well, I have a question. I've always asked about the embarkation fee, and then we told me it was a capacity fee, a capacity problem. But then I found that if you buy a commuter book, you don't pay the tax.
I found that out this week also.
Why?
It's specifically excluded from the legislation.
So we give all the people from our island that are working here making a bunch of money. Yeah.
It's a law, it's part of the legislation.
It's a bad law.
It's very difficult to change it.
Okay.
It's come up
Okay.
a number of times, and I don't disagree that the fee should be on communities, but during the discussions of the embarkation fee to begin with, it came up and it was consciously excluded.
I can see a resident buys it just like a commuter ticket in a boat, but just some guy from the other side shows up. Anyway. All right.
You want to take that one on?
I cracked the case. No,
Okay. The date of our next meeting is the 13th of July. Brian, what are you anticipating on that meeting?
Just hopefully very limited, potentially 33B transfers, but Julia's working extremely hard with all the departments to go through encumbrances, make sure that those encumbrances need to stay open or can be closed, which will free up some money for the budgets, and possibly reserve fund transfers. We're working hard with Island Home, which may be the only one we really look to.
Yeah. And would that be a big reserve fund transfer? I mean, do we have our full 500,000?
We have that minus the 35 now at this point, so yeah, we have essentially all of it.
Yeah.
I hope not. I know that Rachel they've been working extremely hard with Julia, so
Yep.
we've been monitoring it every week, so it looks pretty good.
Okay. Great. So we'll meet on the 13th. I think the only other business we would have, we'll have a new committee will formed, and so we'll elect our officers and adjourn for the summer. And
We're ready for the special town
When are
meeting
those appointments made?
I don't know when the appointment,
this week.
are they this week?
Yeah,
Okay.
on the agenda this week.
Okay. All right. The other thing, it's not on our agenda, but as you all know, we did send a letter, the Finance Committee did send a letter to the Selectmen about population study and a build-out analysis. And I think that's been pushed to the middle of July. It was going to be this Wednesday, but I think it's been pushed to the middle of July. So I think what we'll do is on the 13th, Julie, if you just take a note to make sure it's on our agenda so we can have a discussion about that, because there are a couple of ideas floating around town as it relates to doing some of how we might go about it. So it's worth having a discussion so everybody out here is up to speed on what may transpire. So, okay.
Great.
Motion to adjourn? Moved. Thank you. Brian, thank you. Julia, thank you. Libby? Bye-bye. I told you.